All right, next let's talk about riffs. Before we do, I thought I'd introduce a very special guest. Over the last couple of weeks, as I've been recording all the videos for this class, I've had a trusty sidekick. I want to introduce you to her. This, I think you'll be able to see here. This is Monster. She's been sitting on my road case the whole time that I've been recording this. So I thought you might like to meet her because she's sort of my music theory for electronic musicians counselor. Oh, she's so not impressed with being introduced. Okay. Enough of Monster. In this lesson, I want to kind of talk about doing the opposite of what we just did. So not all the time do you have a chord progression and then make a bass line for it. Sometimes we make a bass line first and then want to find a chord progression that goes with it. And that would be the case when we have like a bass riff that we like. So let's do a bass riff. Now, by riff, I just mean kind of repeating pattern. Let's give ourselves a little bit longer one here. So let's say we've got like an A. Let's do an A minor. So basically, I just want to come up with a riff. Let's try. I'm just going to make a whole bunch of stuff here. Let's try this. This will make like kind of a cool little... Actually, I'm not going to do that. Change my mind. I'm going to do this. I'm going to move every note, the end of every bar up a half step. Let's just try to get a little bit different with this. This is the hard part of like being like creative on the fly. Okay. So now what I have here, let's move this down an octave. So now it's got this kind of, it's kind of like a trip hop kind of thing, right? Let me throw some drums in there to give us a better feel for it. So let me pause and find a good drum, just a drum loop for us, and then we'll throw it back in. Okay, so I threw a little drum loop in there, just an old one that I found on my hard drive laying around, and now I've got this kind of trip hop sound going. Okay, so what chords can we do over that? Now our notes here are super simple. It's just an A and a B. I mean, we could just do an A minor chord for the whole thing. That would work. Or we could have a little fun with it. So let's take this bass line and put it into my other piano track. Let's take it up an octave. Maybe up 2 octaves. Let's just see what we can do with it. So let's first just get rid of this B, because I'm just going to call that a passing tone. And I'm not going to deal with it as a chord. It happens really fast, and it just gives our bass line a little character and doesn't need to be there. So now for chords, an E minor would be the most obvious. See, now that I introduced the cat, she's like finally crawling around on my stuff. Hey, buddy. She likes MIDI gear. Okay, we'll just assume she's not going to get in any trouble. So I could do this and just have this A minor chord go all the way through this. This will work. This will sound fine. It won't be terribly interesting, though. Okay, that works. What we could do here is a thing that we found in the Skrillex track, which was a no chord kind of thing. We don't really need a chord to be happening. We could just have this A imply its own thing. But for the purposes of this lesson, I do want a chord here, just so we can find some stuff that works. One thing I could do here would be like a passing chord. We looked at passing notes, but what if I did this? What if I took this B? I'm going to add this F sharp here. That's not in key, but remember, we've seen this before. On the 2 chord in minor, because it's that diminished, we can bump that up, borrowing from the harmonic or the melodic minor to give us an F, to give us a B minor. So what if I did this? Let's do maybe that. And then we'll take this down. So for 3/4 of a bar, we're going to have this B minor. So it's going to kind of bump the whole chord up and then settle back down onto the A. I almost hear a G here. So that would be the 7th chord of the scale. And it would be a minor, or a major, sorry, a G major. So what if I did that? Okay, so that kind of works. That creates a cool vibe that works well for this kind of groove I have going. So what did I create here? Well, I could kind of ignore the bass line, or when I actually try to put names on these chords, remember the bass is essentially an A the whole time, the pitch. So this is an A minor chord. It just is. This chord is a 2 chord minor, so it's a B minor chord. And there's an A in the bass, so we would say over A. We've seen these over A businesses before. And that's what we just made. We played a B minor chord, but there's an A in the bass, so that's a B minor over A. Here we have an A minor chord again. Here we have a G major chord, and it's over A. And here we have an A minor chord again. So I just started goofing around with passing chords here, and it created for me some of these fraction chords that we looked at before, where we have chord over a different bass note. And these bass notes are not in the chord. This A is not in this B minor chord, and this A is not in this G major chord, but that's okay. If it sounds good, it sounds good. And I like the way this sounds, so I'm into it. Cool. So experiment around when you've got a bass line that's a riff that doesn't really imply a chord necessarily, but you can find chords just by moving around the obvious chords, like taking the A minor chord and just moving it around a little bit, and you'll find some good results.